Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 word and to some race reaction for the first ever Miami Grand Prix. What did we reckon to that one? I want to be positive and say the last 10 laps or so were pretty decent, but prior to that, what we did see of the action wasn't an awful lot, was there? Sorry to start on a negative. That's terrible. How are we all doing in chat this evening? I just want to give a quick heads up on how we're doing race reactions now. Usually, we go through the order. We're not going to do that anymore. We are just going to sit and chat with you guys about the race. Essentially, and this will shock you, react to the race. I know. Race reaction, and we're going to sit and react to the race rather than just trying to get through. Everybody's trying to shorten these streams down just a little bit. But we'll still be here for well over an hour. I'd have thought probably an hour and a half. I will, though, run through the order before we get to my guest today. First time on the channel, looking forward to this one. So your results for Miami 2022, Max Verstappen taking another win this season, and as Crofty kept banging on about, every time he finishes, he wins. 57 laps, of course. Charles Leclerc 3.7 seconds behind with Carlos Sainz in third. Better day for Ferrari than Imola, I think it's fair to say, but yeah. Frustrating for them. Perez fourth. A double podium is not frustrating really, is it? But you know what I mean. I think they wanted to win today. Perez fourth place with a few of his issues. George Russell again top five for him, beating Lewis Hamilton in sixth place. Valtteri Bottas just keeps delivering in the Alfa Romeo, doesn't he? Brilliant season so far from him. Seventh place. Eighth for Ocon and ninth for Alpine. Double points finish for them. Good race for those two, although a bit of contact I think. For Alonso, and he got a 5-second time penalty, which might have put him a place above Ocon, if my maths is correct there. Alex Albon again in the points for Williams, second time this season. Daniel Ricciardo just missing out in 11th place with Lance Stroll in 12th. Yuki Tsunoda 13th. Nicholas Latifi in 14th place. 15th for Mick Schumacher. So close to bloody points. So close to points. Gutted. And a bit weird this one. Magnussen and Vettel both stopped on track at the end, but they are classified 16th and 17th. And then your DNFs, Pierre Gasly, Lando Norris, nasty little crash between those two, actually. I'm sure we'll talk about that one. Zhou Guanyu as well is your other DNF. But let's hope we're working okay today. And I'm going to say, for the first time, a very good, I'm going to say evening, because it's evening here, but good morning where you are, to Josh. Welcome to the F1 word, mate.
Thank you very much for inviting me on. It's good to actually be watching it in the morning. For once. Well, it's always the morning for me, but, not like 2 or 3 in the morning.
A reasonable time.
It's a reasonable time. It's when the sun's up. It's nice having that stuff.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm not going to complain as a European. I know we get it a little bit lucky over here that we get all these races in the afternoon. But
you reckon?
Where do you want to start? What do you reckon to Miami then? I think we can agree that as a spectacle, it's pretty good looking. It's a nice area. It all looks great from the helicopter. But as a track, has it delivered for you so far this weekend? I know the surface hasn't really delivered for anybody.
Yeah, I think I think we have to put some of the lack of action, shall we call it, down to the track being greener than goose crap. It's kind of. There was fears about it all weekend about whether or not they could actually race offline, and I think those fears were kind of realized a bit, but we still got some good racing, where we did. There's definitely, in my opinion, potential in that track. It may need to actually be done properly, the surface, next time, rather than having it redone 13 times over the weekend, even if that does just make it, a quintessential North American Formula One venue.
It's kind of crazy, isn't it, how much resurfacing had to happen on a brand new track across the weekend, which seemed, it kind of shocked me a little bit. And I thought, are we actually going to get any racing this weekend? Are they going to have to call it off because they're having to dig up half the track all the time? But yeah, I think the surface, I think the concerns of the drivers definitely played out today. But I think when we did get some action, it did show that I'm with you. I think there is a lot of potential in this track. When we did get some action, when the TV directors bothered to show it, we could see that they could race, and these rules are showing that they can follow more closely. So maybe we could call it maybe a bit of Baku syndrome. If you remember Baku 2016, which was absolutely dreadful as a Grand Prix first time there, maybe we could give Miami Baku syndrome this year and see if they come back with absolute chaos in in 2023. I mean, it's here for 10 years, so I hope they can do something to that track to at least the surface to try and make it a bit more raceable. But I mean, at least we got past the
I think
lead.
it will happen. I think we also sort of get caught up a little bit in, tracks that we love, tracks that we sort of are accustomed to. Like, some of us would never admit when one of our favorite tracks is a stinker, Like, it's funny, isn't it? We talk all the time about how Monaco is awful for racing, and yet we still look forward to it. It's just
We're weird, aren't we?
we'll never admit, like, we are so fickle as a fan base. We are Formula One fans. No, like, I mean, if a track, especially a newer one, is crap, I'll call it out. Like, I've given Sochi so much crap over the years and said that, the track would have been more interesting if Tilke literally left the canvas as blank. It is just, in my opinion, a dreadful track. Not that it was much of his fault, but you sort of need a bit of a setting around rather than something that was as dreary as Sochi. And Miami has got a good vibe about it. Is the track perfect? No, but at the same time, I hope they can learn some lessons from what happened over the weekend, because you look at it overall as an event and as a track overall, again, watching the race overall, I was like, I can see that potential there. This is doable, but I don't know. You're asking the higher ups of motorsport to listen, and that's yeah. Sometimes that doesn't happen.
I don't know what you could possibly mean. I mean,
no, not at all.
What was good to see is that DRS zone down the start-finish straight actually did something, because I know that looked like one of those, a bit like Australia, the start-finish straight, where it's like it's just not quite long enough and it's not going to do much, but we did get to see some action down there. In fact, most of the action seemed to come down there, apart from Sebastian Vettel, who was just slinging it up the inside of everybody. But we did see a pass for the lead today, again, between Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. But, I mean, as soon as Max threw that one, well, not threw it, but took that lead, I mean, Leclerc just didn't have enough today, did he, to keep up? And we know the Red Bulls are pretty rapid in a straight line. They were rapid again today. With DRS, there was no chance for Charles, but he kept it interesting towards the end, did Leclerc. I mean, there was a little moment where I thought, oh, is he just send it? Let's see what happens. A bit like Perez did on Sainz, where he just went, I'm coming through, and then got that completely wrong. But aside from those last few laps, I think the point I'm making is I don't think there was ever a stage in that Grand Prix when Max Verstappen looked under threat at all. He was in control, wasn't he, until that safety car?
Yeah, well, I mean, you give Max the car, and it's like, he's unbeatable. I've got a certain opinion regarding Max, which I won't say because people might take it the wrong way. But like, the overall point is, the way I look at things, it's a bit like with Lewis. If you give him a car that's like what it was, you just can't beat him, because like, it's that X factor about them. And Charles definitely has something about him, but obviously the straight line deficit between those two is a bit, did work against Ferrari at the end of the day. But it was great to see that close battling going on at the end. I was thinking, yes, okay, I'll live for this. Max versus Charles battles are always great, except for that weird ass moment in Jeddah where they're like, no, after you, going into the DRS zone. Oh, that was ridiculous. And that DRS detection zone has caused nothing but troubles in every instance it's ever been used, including the feeder series. It's just like, move that freaking DRS zone past the apex of the corner so no one has any of this DRS hunting anymore. Aside from that, it's all been great. I've been loving it so far. So it's great to see. And I do think, if the surface can be improved for next year and potentially, suss out a couple of corners. I personally don't have much of a problem with that chicane as what a lot of other people do. Like,
I like it. It
No,
reminds me of the Singapore Sling, and that's
yeah.
a challenge. And if it's something, my view is if drivers don't like something on a racetrack, leave it because it's a challenge for them, and that's what I want to see.
Yeah, I mean, I did hear a couple of drivers complain about it. I was just thinking, tough. That's what racetracks are. They're meant to be annoying. You know, there's some other ones, some other corners on the calendar that are similar to that. I mean, like, if a track's not going to challenge you, what even is the point anymore? Right? Yeah, it is a little bit clumsy, but at the same time, it definitely didn't. It definitely didn't harm the racing as far as I could see. So, you know, like, people may disagree with that. Look, it's honestly just an opinion of mine. Could they bypass that chicane in the future? I mean, I don't know. If they want to do that, that's fine. But yeah, overall, I do like this track. I like the sort of event, even if it was weird, especially in, you know, post race with the police escort and the football helmets. And I was there, I was just thinking, look, I only got 3 hours of sleep, but even I'm thinking at this stage that, you know, I'll need to be on some kind of friggin' edibles at this point to actually understand what the hell's going on. But yeah, still, like, it's an interesting event for sure, and at least it's got a character about it, which is good, of course, because if it's going to be on the calendar for 10 years, at least we need something that's going to be at the very least mildly entertaining.
Yeah, and I must admit, I'm British, and we're very, we can be quite uptight over here. I don't know if that's something the rest of the world knows. I certainly get told it enough, but we can be quite uptight over here, so it's certainly not for me. But I think what I did enjoy is that it felt like, as an event, it felt like a modern day Monaco, if that makes sense. A Monaco, if Monaco launched now, that's what I'd expect to see, rather than all the. I mean, it's still geared towards rich people, let's be honest, but, you know, people with a bit of money to put aside. The tickets were incredibly expensive because of the demand, but it felt a bit more fun than Monaco. Monaco feels a bit stuffy. I know they wanted to make Miami the new Monaco. They certainly achieved it in the first 2/3 of the race with the racing, that's for sure. So just a couple of super chats that have come in. Thank you very much to He was here before I was here. Thank you to Charles Edward Cheese once again for his super chat. Very generous, mate. Thank you very much. Says new cars are odd. I'm unable to tell who's where on merit. Is the Ferrari quick or just for one lap? Is Leclerc unable to cope with Max up his gearbox? Also watching young Russell wiping the floor with Hamilton. He's enjoying that one. Not really. It says it sucks. Safety cars. Yeah, loads of stuff in there from Charles. Thank you so much, mate, for your super chat. Always appreciate it. Thank you as well to, I don't know, just changing my name. Says, what I don't understand is this. The race was probably a 6.5 out of 10, but why do people get so mad about things like them wearing football helmets to the podium? Seemed fun. It was bizarre to see the negative reaction. Thank you very much, mate. And Chevron McBean. Oh, that's a name and a half. Says, as an American, I would like to apologise for how cringeworthy this weekend has been. From the free race walk to the police escorts to the podium, the helmets, cringe, celeb promotions, it was bad. Thank you very much, mate. I mean, it's all good fun, isn't it? The football helmets were interesting. I mean, I don't follow the NFL, but I assume that's to do with the Miami Dolphins in the Hard Rock Stadium. Dolphins. So that's what that one is. But hey, it's all good fun. It's not for me, but you know, I'm here for the racing. Not that was particularly spectacular either. So we'll carry on just sort of chatting about what we saw at the front between Red Bull and Ferrari. Perez had an issue in the race, didn't he? Had a problem with his car, a sensor issue. They had to fail, I think it was 5-0, I think they were saying over the radio. Sorted that one out. Managed to kind of get back up to speed, but was still down on power. Got a chance at the end with a safety car can you tell I'm reading notes? Got a chance at the end with the safety car. And then, of course, had an opportunity to pass Sainz, but never really. What was it at the end? 2.4 behind, maybe a bit of a flat spot in that lock up into turn one. I mean, there was a gap. He went for it. He's a racing driver. I'm not going to judge Checo on that one, but maybe a little bit hot into turn one with that move. But I think a bit of frustration today from Checo over the radio. So maybe that was shown in that move on Sainz. A little bit wild, bit of frustration kicking in.
Yeah, it was 30 horsepower down,
Yeah.
apparently, according to Horner. That apparently equates to half a second a lap. And knowing that, the best of your tires will eventually, fade away, that move had to sort of happen sooner or later. Um, it was sort of one of those moves where it was either gonna work or it wasn't gonna work. It didn't work. But like he went for it. And at the end of the day, he didn't run Carlos off the track. He didn't run himself off the track. I call that an ambitious move, not a dangerous one. A dangerous one is if you're going off the track or if you force someone else off the track, But neither of that happened. It was a bit of maybe a bit of desperation from Checo, maybe. But overall, it was good racing. It was good racing between the two. It was both Red Bulls and Ferraris fighting each other. Yeah. I got a kick out of those last few laps, especially how it was just probably, to put it nicely, somewhat, boring in throughout the sort of first bit of the race, right up until Gaza decided to dance with Lando.
I love the fact you call him Gaza.
I don't know why. I just come up with these names for people. Like it's just been asked, like, where do you come up with these names for people? It's like, I don't know. I just come up with it. So, yeah, Gaza. That's
what I'm stealing it. No, I think the thing is as well that, like you say, there's no contact. It was flipping close, but there was no contact at all between the two of them, and I don't think that's an issue for me. But what I will throw at you and kind of put you on the spot super quickly, Josh, because I love to do this to people. Some people hate it, but looking at those first, 5 races in now, I'm gonna sit here and say that I think they're very evenly matched in terms of pace, Ferrari and Red Bull, but I would say that overall Red Bull at the moment seem to have the best package with Verstappen and their power unit and how the car's working, not a lot of porpoising. So do you think that's fair, or would you say Ferrari have maybe just about got the edge? Because they're pretty good over one lap, Ferrari.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I think it also sort of evolves over different circuits, Like, I mean, yeah, overall package, Red Bull does definitely look better, for sure. But, there are going to be some rounds where the Ferrari will have the edge ever so slightly. Some rounds where Charles will probably be a bit faster than Max. No, it does sort of fluctuate, which is good. So we don't really know what's going to happen in Catalonia because, of course, you could say, well, it's got a big ass straight. It's like, well, it's really the only kind of straight on that circuit that's worth a damn. So what is going to happen? And then you got Monaco, which is just all corners, and then we go to Baku, which is just straight up, just a massive, speed drome. So you got 3 courses which are going to foster up different challenges, and we don't quite know which car. Well, I mean, I think in Baku the Red Bull should be up there. Yeah. But yeah, for the next 2 rounds, we don't really know because it's not as if the Red Bull's lacking in the corners either. It's just a weapon in the straights, which is sort of noticeable. So I mean, yeah, we don't know, and it's great, to have 2 evenly matched cars and to have 2 absolute demons in the first 2 cars. And Carlos and Checo, I love them both. They're both doing excellent on their own as well. It's great to see what's going on in that Red Bull Ferrari sort of battle. I'm enjoying it. And there'll be people that'll say, well, what's changed? Like, it's still only 2 teams at the front. Well, it's new rigs. Give them some time. Like, sometimes when we have the new rigs, you just have like 1 or 2 stragglers who just way up the road. Eventually it will close. But from what I've seen so far with the rigs, it's definitely promising. Like, it's noticeably better than the last regulations were in terms of how close you could be in the racing and so forth. So, yeah, it'll be an interesting sort of battle going forward for sure. I think consistency as well is going to play a massive part in it as well. Like, for all intents and purposes, Max should be leading the championship right now. But,
Yeah.
two retirements. But as I always say, that's racing. And it is, like you got to deal with that stuff when it comes.
Yeah, 23 races. These things are going to come, aren't they? You're not going to get it. You're not going to get it easy. And I'm with you. We have got two teams at the front, and it is two teams that maybe we expected to be at the front. But ultimately, I'd rather that than have a 2014 where Mercedes disappear up the road a second and a half, 2 seconds quicker than everybody else. So I'm enjoying this, and I think you're absolutely bang on with what you're saying about how this is gonna chop and change, if you like, every single race. I'm loving this season so far. I've really been enjoying it. Although I will throw a negative straight in there. I did just realise if we hadn't have had those last 10 laps after the safety car that sort of gave us a bit of excitement, that would have been quite a disappointing race, and that's a disappointing race followed by bloody Spain and Monaco. That would have been an absolute nightmare. Mm-hmm. What a miserable few weeks that would have been.
Spain's not bad. They just need to get rid of that bloody chicane.
Oh, don't get me started on that. We'll be here all night. I cannot stand that chicane. I much preferred the old layout, those final sort of fast couple of corners. That was so much better, especially actually with these cars being able to follow. It would have been pretty decent, that, thinking about it. So, yeah, but that's... I've got plenty of time to prepare myself for Spain. Should we talk a little about the Mercedes battling or the Mercedes pairing this season? Because Russell today... started well down the order, took full advantage of a safety car and made that decision himself, of course, said over the radio, hey, I want to stay out. Let's see what happens. See if we get a virtual safety car or a safety car. Played that brilliantly again. Made a move on Hamilton, had to give it back because he went off track and then got passed again a little bit later. But it's, all right. He's taken advantage of that safety car, that luck when it's come his way. But ultimately, as you say, Josh, that's racing. That's all part of racing. And he's done a great job to finish ahead of Lewis Hamilton. He's the only driver as well, I believe, to have finished every race in the top 5. So great strategy play from Mercedes and from George. Good racing between the two of them. And I think they kind of nailed it in the Sky coverage, actually. Mercedes probably absolutely maximising what they could have got this weekend. So they can't... they've been dominating for so many years and won so many championships. They might be disappointed, but I think they should be very happy with 5th and 6th, given where particularly Russell started at the beginning of this race. As you tend to at the beginning of a race. I don't know why you start in the middle of it, but there you go.
Yeah, for sure. I think it is a bit... I won't read too much into the result of George beating Lewis. And what I mean by that is that I'm not going to say that George came right from the back of the field and came through on pure merit and no outside assistance whatsoever and overtook him, and that proves that Lewis is washed. There's no way indicative of that in this race.
Because that's a lie.
As I said, it is racing, but like Lewis in that race looked good. He definitely looked good in that race. Equally so, George looked good as well. They both looked good. They both maximized what they could. The only cars ahead of them really were the Red Bulls and Ferraris, and they weren't going to catch them. They could have been on soft tires in the last couple of laps against the old hards, and they would have been hard pressed to pass them. That's just where Merc is at the moment. Yeah, George played it beautifully. It was blind luck, but still though, I think probably played into the mind of, well, it's a new circuit. There's been some spins. The track's greener than goose crap. There's likely to be a crash, so let's bank on that. And even if there wasn't that safety car, George probably would have finished at least 1 or 2 spots behind Lewis, if that. It's still a good recovery drive, everything considered. They both did well. The only thing I wasn't a fan of, and personally, it is like the only issue I've really got with Lewis, is just how he goes about racing wheel-to-wheel people sometimes. And it's also a problem I see with like Max. I'm not saying like give people all the room in the world. I just don't like when they give no room at all. And it's just my perspective watching that battle with George. It was just like, Lewis, you might have been able to give a little bit more room to George there. That was a bit rancid. But at the end of the day, it was it was all immaterial because George let him back pass. George made the move again, and this time made sure, okay, you're staying behind me this time. So yeah, I mean, it's just a pet peeve that I've got, and that goes for like any races. Personally, I just don't like seeing people running others out of road. And there's racing drivers say, well, you're told, don't expect to be left room on the exit. It's like, well, that might be true, but still, yeah, I don't know. It's just my sort of pet peeve at the end of the day. But yeah, overall with Mercedes, yeah, probably did about as well as they were ever going to do today. So kudos to them. And kudos as well to George for lucking out, but, maximizing what he had as well. So, yeah.
Doesn't it feel weird saying that they that's the maximum they could have done? They've got to be happy with fifth and sixth. It's Mercedes. I know this happens in Formula One. I remember I talk about it a lot. This is what it feels like for me with Hamilton and Mercedes this year. Schumacher and Ferrari in 2005. That sudden drop off from pure dominance to just really struggling and being, at best the third car. I think they are probably the third best. I think depending on McLaren seems to be pretty good some weekends, but we'll talk about them in a bit, I'm sure. But
that team just goes up and down, up and down, and like it's the worrying thing is, especially last year with the drop off, they're gonna do the same thing this year. Like that would be concerning.
It's a worry. It's a big worry. Yeah, I was just going to say on Hamilton, actually. Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes now. I was just going to say on Hamilton, obviously, that contact with Alonso as well. I'm not saying that was because he didn't leave space, but that contact on the first lap with Fernando could have ended a lot worse. So, not a perfect race for Mercedes. And like you say, Josh, there was a lot of luck there for George, but still did pretty well. I got a couple of other super chats to read as well. From Rhetorical Resources, thank you very much. It says, I love turning commentary off and imagining you and Jonty talking us through. You're straight chill, though, like the Japan 05 watch along. That was good fun. That was a random one that we did one day. And Phil B says, Russell is the luckiest guy alive. Thank you very much for your super chats. And I forgot to say, Charles Edward Cheese, of course, dropping us that $500. Please do try and get us to 500 likes. That'd be massively appreciated. That's the rule when Charles drops that. We like to get to 500. Not for me, but for Charles and a bit for Josh. We've got to be fair to Josh as well. He can have a couple of hundred of those. You're very welcome. Yeah, I've not got much to say on Mercedes really, other than I think we've seen the last couple of weekends that there is some pace in that car when they get it right. We saw in practice. I know practice means stuff all really, but there is some pace in that car when everything's going their way. But it's their tyre warm-up issues, isn't it? They need to suffer with most. But I mean, we'll see. We'll see in Spain. We'll see in Monaco if they can bounce back. But super quickly, there was an interesting question put to I think it was to George, asking about, when do Mercedes accept that maybe this philosophy they've gone with isn't going to work or isn't working, and when do they go to something a bit more simple, maybe something similar to what we saw them roll out in testing in Spain, a more traditional looking side pod. Do you think if you were Toto Wolff, then I'll put it this way, if you were Toto Wolff, would you be not abandoning this season, but maybe looking at dropping with that philosophy and trying something different? I know it's difficult in the era of the cost cap to just start throwing massive parts on like that and changing philosophy, but Hamilton says he's not in the title fight. Mercedes, they're not in the title fight. They're probably going to end up a comfortable third. At what point do you start thinking, right, let's bounce back big time in 2023 and show them what we can do?
Well, it's really simple. They seem to believe in the concept, and like, I don't want to seem like that guy, but it's like when it was rolled out when we saw that no side pod, and it was rolled out in Bahrain. And everyone was just like, this is amazing, and Merc are going to run away and all this stuff.
Confirmed.
and I was just looking at it, and the first thing that came to mind when I saw that was, cool, that's impressive. But the picture in my head was the walrus nose.
Oh,
and
God.
it was just like, yeah, it looked, I never looked cool, but it was, it was impressive, in terms of what they achieved. But as we know from the walrus nose, just because something's impressive in terms of how it's done and how it's designed, and it may work on paper and all that stuff, there's no guarantee in the sport. And I was just thinking, yeah, let's just see how this works, because it amazes me that no one's really tapped into this. And we heard a couple of teams say, "Oh yeah, we looked at that design, we weren't convinced on it." It's like, okay, Merc sees something in this that other people don't. All right, let's just see where this goes. And of course, we found out that it wasn't this all-encompassing missile that it was proclaimed to be initially on paper. But look, they clearly believe in it. They see something in it. Frankly, the decision should have been made at the very most 2 or 3 rounds into the championship. After that, you just got to commit.
Yeah.
You can't just think like after Miami or Barcelona, just be like, well, we did that proper side pod in Spain. Let's run with that. It's like, no, like honestly, if you believe in the concept you got, run with it. Don't pussyfoot around, because if you switch to the other one and it's not as good or even worse, then what have you done? You're just throwing away your concept.
And you've thrown away all your data as well from those first 5 races, haven't you? You've kind of put all the effort into gathering the data, and then you've gone and chucked it in the bin.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, if they have to accept that this year's over, and it probably is, then just accept it's over. But, like, if this is going to hamper next year, because they were too busy just going, oh, what do I do? What do I do? It's like, well, that's your own fault. And you're going to potentially lose your drivers here. And the snowball goes from there. I hope Toto's made up his mind, and it seems they have. But if they do go to the side pod proper, midway through the season, and it ends up doing nothing for them, it's just like, oh, jeez. Okay, it's not ideal. Not ideal.
I like it. Stick with it. You did it. Stick with it. Get on with it. Make it work, and then try again next year. But I mean, hey, top 3 of the championship, not a disaster. Obviously, there'll be the reset as well in the CFD and wind tunnel time in June, I believe. So that's not far away. So that might help them out for next year. So it's every cloud and all that. If we're being positive, but I mean, look,
yeah.
I guess on the subject of Mercedes, I've got to talk about him because I don't talk about him enough, and I've been really harsh on him over the last few years. But Valtteri Bottas so far this season, and again this weekend, he's blown my mind. I don't buy into this Bottas 372.0 or whatever it is. I think this is just Bottas. I think this is who he is as a driver. He was so good at Williams. He led that team so well, despite being up against okay, maybe a bit past it, well past his prime Felipe Massa, but still a massive experienced driver. Got in that Williams, nearly choked, did a fantastic job as a youngster, went to Mercedes, was able to out-qualify Hamilton at the time, pushed him, was very much the second driver, but now he's got himself into a team that he can, I guess you could say, kind of call his own in some ways. He can lead that team. Yeah. It's going to be built a little bit more around him. He's more comfortable, and he's smashing it. I think I read a stat. He's out-qualified. It's something like out-qualified Lewis Hamilton in 3 of the last 5 races in an Alfa Romeo.
and it took for him to be in an Alfa Romeo for that to happen.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Valtteri, I've never had a problem with Valtteri's speed. Valtteri's speed, I always thought was a constant. No matter what year, he was always fast. He was always fast, and I thought he was going to be fast in an Alfa Romeo. I just didn't know that Alfa Romeo were going to make something halfway decent this year. But yeah, my issue was always with his racecraft, in that he defended like the Maginot line, and he didn't even like to pass wind, let alone other cars. He was just very held back in how he raced. And I know that sounds incredibly strong, from an F1 YouTuber. What the hell do you know about racing? It's like, well, look, honestly, that's just my observation. Nothing against Valtteri. I just call it as I see it. But, this year I thought, well, he's going to be an Alfa Romeo. He's going to have his own team. With the greatest respect to Zhou Guanyu, he's not the fastest driver in the world. He probably isn't in the top 6 F2 drivers from last year that I would have promoted to F1. It's not bad, but it's, Valtteri is a known quantity, so it's not exactly a surprise that Valtteri's that far up the road. But just Valtteri on his own here for a moment. Qualifying speed, as it was before, very impressive. Very impressive. So, with that, I'm very happy to see what he's doing. And it is slightly funny to see him out qualify the Mercs. It's just like this is an irony where you can't tell me he isn't laughing his ass off at times.
Just grinning in that helmet every single lap, isn't he?
Yeah. And you can't blame him. You cannot blame him for doing that. It's just exponentially increased his stock. In terms of racing, I thought in Bahrain it was a bit, either or. I think at best it was fine. The next three races I didn't see his racing too much. I think they were sort of focusing on other stuff. This was a race where I actually managed to see his racing, and it was good. I mean, this year, has offered up. I think this year's more that Valtteri's been offered that freedom. Not to say that Mercedes intentionally held him back every single solitary minute he was there. He was up against Lewis freaking Hamilton. I don't care who you are. That's the ultimate test in modern day Formula One, to have Lewis as your teammate.
At the height of his powers as well.
At the height of his powers, to me, so Lewis in that black Mercedes is one of those. It's a bit like seeing Senna in the Dayglow McLaren in a way. It's like you see that in your rearview mirror and you're just like, oh crap, I'm screwed. It is pretty much that he's got that freedom now at Alfa Romeo. He doesn't have that pressure. He doesn't have that sort of, no, don't worry. Your teammate is only the statistical GOAT of Formula One. There's not that anymore. No disrespect to Joe, but Joe's not Lewis. So he's got his own team. He could build it around him, and it's paying dividends for sure. So I did give Valtteri a lot of crap over these last few years, but I'm not saying I'm eating my words. I'm not because I stand by what I said the last couple of years. His racing wasn't good enough, but this year he's come out of the box, and I'm happy to see that things are working out for him because, of course, we all want the best for drivers, especially someone of Valtteri's caliber. So yeah, it's great to see.
I mean, I once said he wasn't fast enough to be a world champion.
I mean, not everyone can be, to be fair.
Which didn't go down particularly well, but I stand by that now. I still think, I was going off his back end of 2018, which was atrocious, absolutely atrocious. So I think that criticism was valid, but I will always give a driver credit when they deserve credit. I'm trying to make a bit of a shit sandwich there, for being honest, for him, because we've talked positive, and I'm trying to think of another positive for a minute, but bit of a cock up today. Did get it wrong at that turn 17, kind of well wide, clunked the wall a little bit, lost those places to Mercedes. So could have even been even better today. But I think my point is, I suppose, to bring it back to the positive, is that if you'd have offered him P7 consistently this season, he'd have absolutely loved that in that car. So he's not going to be overly disappointed with the 7th place, but I'd love to see his quotes, because I bet he is quite hard on himself for that mistake, because that was a mistake. That's not, nobody's stuck it at the inside and shoved him wide. It's not a car issue. He's made the mistake at the end of the day, so could have been even better.
No, but I think there were a few people, not just in F1, but also in other series, they were going wide of that corner. But
Leclerc did, didn't he, in the race?
Yeah. I mean, I love that though. I love that a corner, challenges a driver like that. I think that corner as well. I love that corner, actually, to be honest with you, because it does seem to, it offers up overtaking opportunities. It can easily lead to mistakes. Yeah, and just the way you come out of the corner on that one, it seems like it may be the cars, probably, but yeah, you never get the sense like on other times you come out of a hairpin where your opponent just drives away off into the distance. Didn't seem like that this time, So yeah, it's just going back to the circuit. I personally hope that any issues are solved in Miami, because I'm gonna be honest, I like it. I like it as an event. I like it as a venue. I like it as as an overall package. But yeah.
I'm surprised at the track. As I was saying, I'm surprised I enjoyed it. I'm hoping that I'm going to call it the Baku syndrome for this year, and then hope we get a corker next year. What else should we talk? Who else we got here that we want to talk about? Because I'm not going to go for everybody, because these streams are usually end up being about 2.5 hours long, and we get to Latifi, and I'm like, I don't care, and I don't think anybody else does. With the greatest,
well, let's get that out of the way.
Latifi was crap today.
Let's get that out of the way. Latifi needs to get gone from Formula One. Like, I have defended the king where I can. He's shithouse this year, and it's like, there is the excuse of, these cars are a bit more difficult to drive. So freaking what? You're in Formula One.
Alex Albon had a year out.
Are you of Formula One caliber? Like, Alex is doing well. What's your excuse? And frankly, next year, far out. Right now, waiting in the wings, we've got the likes of Oscar Piastri, potentially Bobby Schwartzy, Callum Ilot's there as well. Yuri Vips is almost certainly going to get the AlphaTauri seat, because I've never seen Helmut Marko coddle anyone so much in my life. There's Liam Lawson. Dennis Hauger's waiting in the wings. Jahan Daravala can be good when, he's being, halfway decent. I would say Dan Tickton, but I think that dream is gone. But at the same time, the one thing I do fear when it comes to Latifi getting gone, there is one person who really wants that seat and is part of the Williams Academy. Roy Nissany.
Oh, God.
What do you want? do you want the king, or do you want Roy?
I want Piastri.
Exactly. we all want pastry in there, but I'm just saying, if you had to choose between Roy Nissany and King Latifi, you know what? I wouldn't wish that choice on my worst enemy. Let's just hope that Piastri does get the seat next year.
I was going to say, if that's the choice I'm given as a team boss, I'm selling the team. There's just no point anymore. If they are my two options, Roy Nissany and Nicholas Latifi, I'm selling the team.
There is no hope. No hope.
It's over. Game over. Yeah, that's Latifi done then, on so many levels, definitely. But his teammate Alex Albon again today got a point. He's just, it's almost a cliche at this point with me, but he's kept himself out of the wall, kept himself out of trouble, just drove a nice clean race, nice and consistent with his lap times. Strategy was fine, did a good job. P10. It's exactly what he has to be doing in that car, and that's the second time this season. So I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm not on the Albon hype train like a lot of people are, but he's a good driver and he's doing a good job in that car, and I just hope that we don't end up in a situation where he gets a little bit of the Mick Schumacher syndrome, in the sense that everybody last year was waxing lyrical about Mick Schumacher. You put Magnussen in that car, an actual driver who's capable, unlike his previous teammate, and he's been beaten at the moment. I mean, Mick was good today until he had his moment, of course. He was on for points, but Magnussen's really, to have a year out and to hop in that car at such short notice and to do so well in that car, I just hope Albon doesn't get like a Piastri alongside him next year and fall the same way. But I don't think he will. I think Albon's better than that, is my read anyway. But yeah, I think it's an important point for Williams. It's a nice point for Williams, and I just wanted to get that car sorted, and I'd like them to try and cover it in more Duracell, please, because I think that livery looks fantastic with the way they've turned the airbox into a battery. I do enjoy that very much because I'm weird. But yeah, I think Albon did good today, and I think Mick Schumacher did a great job until he ended up in that instant with his Bezzy mate,
his de facto dad in some ways.
Yeah, that's the
one. Yeah, we'll start off with Alexander first. Impressive. It's just impressive. It has helped a bit with Latifi sort of just being a whole bunch useless right now. But still, you can't hold that against him. Albon's doing what needs to be done, and he's showing aspects of what people were hyping up about. And I'm not talking about his sort of fans or whatever. I'm more talking about his peers, his driving mates and so forth, who say that Alex deserves to be in Formula One. He does. And I believe that, before even Marco brought him into Toro Rosso. But you can't give too many excuses for 2020. He just shat the bed. It's as simple as that. And there's nothing wrong with it. Drivers have those years. It's all a learning experience. And at the end of the day, he's now back in Formula One, less pressured environment. He's up against a teammate who, frankly, right now is having a nightmare of every aspect when it comes to driving.
I mean, he's behind Hulkenberg in the championship.
yeah, which is impressive, quite impressive. Alex is just doing what he needs to do, and that's all you can ask of him. So again, I'm just impressed with how the season's going. As for Mick, yeah. I want him to do well, and he was doing well in that race. The crash, I haven't seen the motion onboard yet, and I need to see that. I have seen 3 stills of the onboard, and I think it was... You can put it down to a racing incident. Driver A didn't give room. Driver B was too ambitious. It's like, jeez. Might be one of those ones where you just can't apportion blame. Still, though, he lost points. He lost the potential points.
Was he 9th?
And he was about that area. Yeah. He did have Ocon behind him on softs, but Ocon wasn't really moving anywhere too much. But yeah, it's a pity. It is a pity. I mean, you can see the potential's there for sure. But yeah, it's going to be one of those things where it's like, okay, I accept. Car doesn't handle too well and you start smashing into people. That's a lesson that you learn. And, just go from there. But, yeah. Not ideal for Mick, though. I think it's a very sort of benign way to put it.
Alex in chat just saying there, no further action on the Vettel-Schumacher incidents, just to confirm that one as well. I think that was just after the race. I did write that down, but I haven't looked at my notes yet for that one. But actually, what we're talking crashes, I suppose we ought to talk about the one, we probably should have done this sooner, actually. It's just come to me. I don't know how it's only just come to me, but the one that totally changed the race. I mean, first of all, I'll go on record as saying thank you so much, Lando Norris and Pierre Gasly. Because if it wasn't for you two, God knows what those last 10 laps or so would have been like. Probably like the previous few. But... I mean, I need some more replays of that. I've only really seen the ones that were on the live feed. I don't really know how to read that. The stewards didn't look into it, so it looks like a bit of a misunderstanding between the two of them. Gasly off the track, comes back on. He's on the radio at the time as well, and Lando sort of comes around the corner and they connect, and it's quite a nasty little one for Lando. Not a huge accident. I think it looked worse than it probably was. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't want to be crashing at that speed. I'd be such a wimp about it as well. But
it's decidedly unhealthy to do that kind of stuff.
Definitely. But yeah, that kind of changed the race, didn't it? I mean, gave us a safety car, gave us some exciting last few laps, and that was kind of quite welcome, if I'm being honest. I don't ever want to sit here and be like, oh yeah, I really want to see a crash, because that's not what I mean. But when that happens, it reminds me of, where was it? It was Daniel Kvyat a few years ago. It was somewhere like... I think it was Baku a few years ago, to 2017, somewhere around there, where Kvyat ended up pulling over and stopping, and they had to get a safety car out, and it just blew the race up. And I was like, thank you so much, Daniel Kvyat. It was something like that. That's how I felt today for Lando and Pierre. But that just looked like a misunderstanding, or am I being too generous, Josh? Am I being too on the fence there? Should I be blaming Gasly or Norris and tearing them apart for it?
You can make a valid argument for both. I've just seen the replay of that, and it's one of those hindsight's 2020, people. Hindsight is 2020. You could argue Lando should have given him a more wide berth, or Gaza should have stuck to the right a bit more. Honestly, looking at it, was clumsy, but it was just a racing incident. It was just like, yeah. That kind of stuff happens in racing sometimes. You clang wheels in an open wheeler and the damn things just shoot off in every direction. Yeah, looking at that, it's like, just, yeah.
Maybe Gasly, as he's
Racing
coming,
incident, move on.
yeah, he's the driver that's gone off track. Maybe he should have been more aware of what was around him. Maybe a little bit, but
Mate, you could argue, but Lando was running quite close to him, and
Lando
you
could
can
see him.
Lando could see him, but at the same time, Gasly was in a pretty constant direction. Lando was running quite close. I don't know. Again, you can argue either way. When you can argue either way legitimately, it's like maybe there isn't anyone to fully blame here. Take it on the chin, racing an incident, move on, and say lovey. So yeah, sometimes these incidents just don't warrant further thinking. But what I will say again is that it did spice the race up, because after only getting 3 or 4 hours sleep last night, oh boy, I was getting very sleepy at that time.
How are you not asleep?
I actually did fall asleep, and then I just woke up to see like an onboard of Gasly and the accident happening. And Crofty was sounding so calm. I'm like, how the hell are you so calm? It's just like, oh, replay. I missed it. Oh, come on.
Well, yeah, I keep hinting at it, but I'm kind of. It's nice that we actually got to see the incident, because TV direction was shocking. We'll do that in a bit, because I know I've seen some people in chat that probably want to throw that question at us in a bit. But yeah, I totally agree. If you look at an incident and you could argue it either way, it's a racing incident as far as I'm concerned. I still have some controversial opinions on some of the incidents we saw last year, which we're not going to get into, because I am not opening that can of worms.
No. There's a reason why I didn't do any videos on that kind of stuff. It's like, it's been documented aplenty, and it doesn't matter which way I tackle this, I'm just going to get shit afterwards. So I'm leaving that can of worms in the same way that I'll leave a room full of zombies. I'm not going in there.
I was very much like, after the race reaction for Abu Dhabi, I was like, and Merry Christmas, and I'll see you in the new year. I don't even want to talk about this anymore.
Quickest race review of all time.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Cheers. And that was basically it. I'm not going to tear either driver apart on that one. Who else? Anything other interesting bits? I mean, I think really good result for Alpine, 8th and 9th today. They seem to be quietly picking up the points. Ocon seems to just be there to grab them and pick up the pieces when other people trip over each other, which I think, a bit like last year, has had a really solid start to the season, actually, Esteban Ocon. So we'll probably be fairly happy despite his crash yesterday. And actually, that's a good point. That's a brand new chassis, isn't it? And that's the first time he's driven that is in the race, and he's taken it to 8th place from the back of the grid. That's not half bad at all, actually, for Esteban Ocon. Maybe should have got more of a nodding driver of the day. I don't know where he was, actually. I'm going to go and have a look for that now. I'm really intrigued.
It was Max got the driver of the day there.
Yes, he did.
And you can't really argue against it. That was just, commanding drive. You can
wasn't even top 5.
You can't really yeah. Oh, that's interesting. You can't really argue that against that either, but yeah, I can't say that the race up to that safety car was necessarily good. I can't really say it was.
I'm just having a scroll. So we've got, right, okay, so there has been a change in the order. 5-second time penalty for Alonso for gaining an advantage off the track. That drops him to 11th, which puts Albon into 9th, and
2 points.
Stroll into 10th,
2
according
points
to Luke
for
Smith.
Albon.
Surely it's Ricardo in the points.
Actually, that would be hang on, wouldn't Sir Lancelot get the points?
So
or
Albon
did he get another penalty
9th.
that I'm unaware of?
So Albon will go up to 9th, and then it was Ricardo 11th. I've got on my screen here, so that will put him 10th, surely.
Hang on.
Stroll to P10.
No. Ricardo got a 5-second penalty for leaving the track.
Yes, he did. Yeah, sorry.
So Sir Lancelot will get that point. Actually, on Sir Lancelot, I will say he is being under the radar quite a bit so far this year.
He was bloody brilliant yesterday, I think.
But I haven't ignored this Aston Martin pairing. The car's a dog, but Lancey boy has been showing some good stuff, especially up against Seb. If we want to believe Seb's the same person he was from, a certain stage in the 2010s, but more on that later. I'm not opening that can of worms. Yeah, like, but I mean, both he and Seb are doing good stuff with that car, and Lance in Miami was no exception. Seb also had some good moments right up until he was launched into low Earth orbit from Mick. But like,
Mm.
it's good. I don't know whether or not they've actually sussed out that car or whether or not they're just being superhuman at the moment, but it is better than to see them drowning at the back, which was not good for sure. But actually, on that, it'll be interesting to see whether or not Lawrence does throw his toys out of the pram and just straight up sells to Audi.
I think that or a tie-in with Williams, because I mean, Derrilton have bought Williams, but they're investment bankers, aren't they? Basically, Derrilton. So if they can make some more money off that, they will. They'll quite happily sell Williams on, I'm sure. But my gut would be that Lawrence will sell.
Yeah.
If things don't pick up, he'll sell.
Yeah, I just didn't quite like, some of. How do I say this without getting absolutely lynched? Just there was this sort of.
I'm so nervous right now.
No, this sort of. There was this sort of chatter going about, a bit of it sort of self-perpetuated propaganda. With Lawrence saying, we're getting a lot of people around the paddock saying we're the next big thing. It's like, good for you. But guess what? It sometimes doesn't work this way in this game. Just if there's one thing I do know in this game is sometimes the people that talk a big game, sometimes you end up with egg on their face. So you got to be careful with what you say, because if you end up saying like, for example, was it before 2021? Lawrence saying something to the effect of, if they were jealous of our speed this year, they're going to be even more so next year, or something to that effect. And then next year they ended up drowning.
Yeah.
It's like, just chip away at it, like, but you can make yourself look like an idiot if you fail to deliver the goods. And they've gone backwards this year upon a year where they went backwards before. Like, so
learn from McLaren.
Yeah.
Basically, all those years over the winter, we had Ron Dennis and Fernando Alonso and all that saying, "Oh, this Honda engine, it's a piece of jewelry. It's going to be incredible." We had that like every winter.
Best chassis on the grid.
We'll be back. Yeah, best chassis on the grid, and then they were just absolute dog turd. And then the first time you knew McLaren had a decent car was when they switched to Renault, and they said nothing all winter, and you were like, "They've got a good car."
I mean, also, what. I'm not holding it against Lewis here at all. It's just when he said, the team doesn't make mistakes. It's like, Lewis, they're humans. Humans make mistakes.
Everybody makes mistakes. Yeah.
Everybody makes mistakes. Like, just, you don't want to end up with the egg on your face here. You better hope that you're right. And oh boy. So yeah, like, again, just. With how Aston Martin is, if Lawrence really is that cranky, and apparently he laid it into them after Bahrain with how bad they were, if this is his attitude, it's like, look, you may as well just sell up to Audi, because like,
means we lose.
If you're not I mean, he was going on about how, we're not going to look at winning a championship for another sort of 5 or 6 years. It's like, well, if that's the case, I don't know where you're expecting to be now. Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I kind of do hope that they do get bought out by Audi, in a sense that that Audi will treat it pretty damn seriously. And it's also kind of exciting to think about who they would draft in too. So. Yeah. I don't know. For me, the romance of having Aston Martin back is a little bit delusioned with just how the whole operation is. Uh, although I will give Lawrence his props. With all the people that he's signed, he's made a good team for 2007. I don't know about 2022, but
Yeah,
still
Martin Whitmarsh, where's he found him?
from a McLaren catalog in 2003.
That was a surprise. See that one? Yeah, no, I think the Aston Martin thing, I was quite excited for it, and it feels a lot like a bit like the Alpha deal at Sauber, a bit of a title sponsorship rather than a team. I'd love them to pump the money in, keep expanding, get everyone in the right place, get their drivers right, get the car right, and fight for titles in that 5 to 8 year window. I think he's set or something like that. I'd love them to do it, but I don't think he's not the kind of man that. He doesn't strike me as the kind of man that's just going to keep pouring money into that team just so his son can drive around for a fluky P1.
Oh, when you hear about the money that Lawrence put into Lars's career, it's just like nothing is gonna stop this dude
Really?
from ensuring that Lance. It's just hearing how much money Lawrence spent on the junior career alone, and then that's when you realize. If there is one thing that Lawrence is hell-bent on in life, it's seeing to it that Lance is a world champion. And he will be if he went to WEC, because I think that's where his talents lie. Formula One, he's doing good. He's doing all right. I would just prefer him in WEC, because, again, that's just where I feel his talents more lie. But Lawrence ain't gonna listen to me. I wouldn't listen to me. So, but who knows? Who knows? Let's see what happens with this Audi talk. Hopefully Toto Wolff doesn't block it like he's trying to block Andretti.
Yeah, Michael Andretti was going around, wasn't he, trying to get team principals to sign up to it? Yes, we're fine with it, but I can't imagine Toto Wolff.
Just just going around getting all these team principals autographs. Hey, sir, can you sign this, please? I'm a big fan. He should have probably just done that with Toto, and just like covered it up with like a sort of program thing. It's just like, Toto, I'm a huge fan. Can you sign this, please? Like oh sure, anything for a fan. And they just get rid of the papier mâché. It's like, oh sure, thanks for this. I'm gonna take it now to Mohammed bin Salman and just say that you got that I've got your approval to enter Formula One. What? Yeah, you listen to what reasons Toto gives for not wanting Andretti in there. It's just like,
Andretti feel like such a safe bet.
It's more like, again, like there is only probably one team in America that I would want to send Formula One above Andretti, and that's Penske. And Penske did go in Formula One, and they did win a race in 1976 with John Watson, I believe. I think it was 1976 Austrian Grand Prix with John Watson. Penske won that. So there is pedigree there. And of course, there is with Andretti as well, because, it's got the famous Andretti name with Mario Andretti being 1978 world champion. Michael's got that experience in Formula One as well. 1993 McLaren driver before he was kicked to the curb after getting a podium in Monza. Still. Andretti would still be a good bet. They have got a proven track record in American open wheelers. So, if Toto seriously tries to veto that and does everything he can to keep them out, it's like, okay. So, what do you propose, Toto? What do you propose? Because this just seems like a backward step to me.
I just think if you're looking at a new team and you're concerned of another, potentially of another Virgin or Lotus as they were, or HRT, you're really barking up the wrong tree, because Andretti for me is such a safe gamble that I wouldn't even call it a gamble. They've got such great motorsport pedigree that it just makes sense. So I don't know what well, I know what the problem is. It's that Toto Wolff doesn't want to give up his slice of that prize money, or Mercedes' slice of that prize money, does he? That's exactly what it is. It'll all boil down to cash at the end of it. Exactly.
You know, it must be really, really hard to part with millions and be left only with
Millions.
only with about 10 millions. You know, like what a hardship in this day and age. Really, oh damn, he's going to really have to mortgage the house again, isn't he? Oh my god. I just love it when the sort of higher up motorsport people just have a whinge about stuff. It's just like, yeah, sure, okay, fine, sweet, okay, yeah, complain some more. But yeah, I mean, I do hope that Andretti do get in, especially because considering if McLaren don't do it, then Andretti almost certainly will bring in Colton Herta, you know, and if Colton can just refrain from crashing in the race, you know, he's massively fast. And, you know, we want to see drivers like that. We want to see an American driver on the grid that can legitimately challenge, you know? The last one we had was Scott Speed, and he was an idiot. And before that, we had Michael Andretti, who was fast, but you can argue got really shafted by McLaren because it was Ayrton's team. And then before that, you had Eddie Cheever, who was a bit of a journeyman in the 80s. And then before that was Danny O'Sullivan. And then you go back to Mario Andretti, the last driver from America who really had a proper crack. That was 1982 he last raced. 1982 was the last time America had a representative driver on the grid. That is a long time. And I did obviously forget Alexander Rossi, who never got that fair a chance. But, you know, we obviously want to see a competitive American on the grid. So either Colton would do that or Kyle Kirkwood, who is just a bullet of a driver. Now, either one of those two, we want to see in there. And if putting Andretti on the grid is going to help that, then, for goodness sake, aside from the fact that Andretti's got a proven track record, this is just going to help Formula One exponentially. So go and do it.
Yes, get out there and get those autographs. A couple of other things I want to say from the race, though, that I think I've missed in my notes that I probably have to mention. Carlos Sainz had a slow stop at 5.4 seconds, and if Perez hadn't had his engine problems, then probably would have jumped him in the pit stop. So Checo probably quite unlucky today not to end up third. And there was one other thing. Alonso had a slow stop as well with a right rear, but I mean, with his penalties, that kind of makes that irrelevant. I think we'll leave the race chat there, and I'll ask chat for one surname for their driver of the day. Who's your driver of the day, chat? Verstappen won the official one, Josh. But who's your driver of the day? Is there anybody else that stood out to you?
I'd probably just put Max there because he didn't really do anything too wrong, didn't he? Like, you can argue, you could put Ocon in there because that was the steering drive, 20th to 8th. That was really damn good. I don't want to lean toward George too much because he did kind of luck out. Just thinking. Like, yeah, it would either have to be Ocon or Max for me. You can throw Albon in there as well. Either one of those three. But when you think about it, Max just drove the race he needed to. You know, he was indomitable today. So, you know, like, you can't vote against that.
That's the thing, isn't it? Sometimes when I sort of do these, I think driver of the day, you sort of look at the winner and you're like, I mean, he did win the race. So, I mean, he is literally
winning
driver
the race
of the day, isn't he?
Winning the race is quite a good chink in your armor. It's like, yeah, that would help people convincing them that, you know, maybe he did well today. Winning a race often means you did well. But it's also just the manner in which he won it, you know? Like, he did command the race. And yes, Leclerc came at him, but it didn't quite look as though he was really in absolute danger. And even if he was, I mean, it's Max. Max is ice cold. He can cope with that stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. I can't really find fault with Max, so you can't really vote against him in driver of the day.
Well, you've picked Max. I am going to go with George. I am going to go with Russell. I totally get everything you're saying, but
when you say that you voted for George, there, you're saying you voted for blind luck.
He played the blinder on strategy. He took a risk and it paid off, and I like that. And I don't want to pick Ocon because you've just picked Ocon as well as a second choice.
I was about to say something that would have landed me in extremely hot water, so I won't say that. It was because it was just an example of luck. But then I thought, oh no, actually no. Racing drivers have a bad experience with that thing in real life, so no, I won't go there. But the whole point is that. Trust me, George drove a good race today. Even without that safety car, he probably would have ended up around about P7-ish, something like that, which is a good recovery drive. But, still, I mean, hey, okay, it's your vote. No,
it's like I say, it's just I totally agree. He's looked out, but I've always said on this channel, you've got to be there to take advantage of the luck when it falls your way.
Luck, yeah.
And he did that, and I've got to give him credit for that. And he had a shocking start on those hard tyres, and was right down towards the back, and still came through to P5. Managed to overtake his teammate, yes, on fresher tyres, I know, but I'd say George.
I mean, that is fair, especially with how bad the Mercedes is when it comes to getting the tyres in working condition and starting on the hard tires, against the mediums around him. That thing would have been like a dog on a rug for the first lap in a bit. So yeah, that's fair. So effectively coming from 15th all the way up to where he did. Yeah. Fair enough.
If I was voting on the official poll, which I never do because it's pointless, but if I was, I'd have given it to Verstappen. But you pick Max, so I'll go with George just for counter. I think Ocon absolutely. I'll read some of these out from chat because people seem to be very much in the same area. KMS Boss says Ocon or Russell. Musso says Russell. Pixel Flow says Albon. 94 Toyota Celica. I can never say that. Max. Alex, that's the one. Alex says Verstappen. Chris says Russell. Fanta Boy says Russell. Alex says Albon, not the Alex Albon saying Albon. Greg says Verstappen. Nico says Russell. F1 Ryan's gone with Albon. I think we'll see where this is going. General Dragon says Verstappen. James says Albon. Russell for Liam. It's Ocon for Freeze. Russell for Nico. For James. For Greg. Dan's gone with Max for driver of the day. Albon or Ocon for around the outside. Jonathan's gone with Hamilton. Alex has gone with Verstappen. Nick's gone with Russell or Albon. Brad's gone with Russell.
A lot of love for George here. I'm a slight tad surprised. I mean, yeah, like I would have expected there would have been a bit more of a negative narrative given the whole safety car thing. I mean, obviously we both know A, you make your own luck, and B, say it with me, everyone. That's racing, but still, I swear someone's going to make a meme of my that's racing thing and put it over the 1990 Suzuka Turn 1 incident. It's like,
that's racing.
That's racing. It's just like, I mean, kind of, if you consider a completely deliberate action racing, but still, yeah, I guess I do get it, I suppose. But I will bring up an interesting question. Say we get into the dog days of the championship, the business end, when you got to start actually ascertaining where you're on in the food chain in the championship. Let's theorize for a moment that George is the only hope for Mercedes, because at the moment he's almost an entire Grand Prix win worth of points away from Lewis in the standings. However he got there, he's there. So let's say we're 3 or 4 rounds out from the end of the season, and these are actually how close you are on points, George to the top and to Lewis. You got this really interesting scenario where Merck may ask Lewis to lie down for his teammate. And that,
I mean, that's the shift, isn't it?
That would be a seismic shift, and you got to actually wonder whether or not he might accept it. You would think that Lewis would do the best with the team, but it's just not something he's ever really been asked to do. Say for maybe Button in 2011, but even then.
I mean, Schumacher did it for Irvine in '99 when he came back.
Yeah, but I mean,
he'd not got his 7 titles. There
was a reason for that because for quite a while that year, only 3 rounds, but still for a while, it was sort of like, okay, if Schumacher could walk by the end of this year, that would be a minor miracle, But it was. It wasn't as if that Irvine sort of had the measure of him that year. If we're totally honest. It was partially down to, like Schumacher kind of destroying his legs. Still, it would be interesting, wouldn't it? I know I said this in the predictions, total blind luck there, ironically, but yeah, it's an interesting concept because it's a bit like the end of the Mercedes domination. We've just had this thing for so long, and now it's here. It's like, okay, even I'm confused as a fan. How do you think they're going to feel them being this dominant for this long and Lewis running away with these titles? This is a complete shift in what we come to know. So, yeah, it'll be interesting, especially if Mercs solve their problems and then they start having a legitimate crack at the title. Who knows?
It's certainly a hell of a twist, wouldn't it? Or like I say, a hell of a shift. To hear Lewis, it's James over the radio or something like that. I mean, I'd like to think if he's got no real shot at the championship, George has, that he would play that team game. That was kind of my point, because there's a story, isn't there, about Schumacher in '99 that he could have been back earlier and he was caught playing football, and they told him to get back in the car because he didn't want to come. Apparently, it's a rumor really more than a confirmed story, unless somebody's heard that confirmation from somewhere. But he was caught playing football and was told to get back in the car because he didn't want to come back because he didn't want to have to help to win the title. I don't know how absolutely true that is, but I can imagine it. I wouldn't fancy coming to a team that's supposed to be mine and then having to play the team game and let my average at best teammate through.
Either that, or he was a bit like me, and he just felt really bad for Mika Salo getting, a little bit conned out of a win, But yeah,
Hockenheim, yeah, God, yeah.
It's an interesting concept, isn't it? And one that we may very well have to face during this year. Like, who freaking knows?
If you've got any questions, by the way, chat, throw them our way. We'll answer a few questions for 10 minutes and then we'll wrap things up for today. I think I got all the super chats. Don't forget to drop a like as well. We're well off the 500, so if we could get that up, we're at 258 at the moment, and we need to get somewhere near 500 for Charles Edward Cheese, so please do. Always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe and all that usual YouTuber stuff, which is... I'm just so uncomfortable doing it.
Come on, people, get this up to 500 likes, and I might release a video this week. Because we know how horrible my timetable's been lately. Good grief. Still though, like, just the whole Mercedes thing is just, I'll be honest, there is some chatter from that team. I'm not talking about the drivers. I'm talking just the team. It is a bit concerning. I don't pick sides here. I just, I'm just a fan of the sport now. I don't back any particular team or driver, just whatever. But some of the language coming out of the Mercedes camp is it sounds a bit, it's a little bit like denial in some instances, insistence that, no, we're on the right track. It's like, I hope so. But, also when they say, we've come up with several different potential solutions, it's like, oh boy, that can mean a couple of things. They can either mean, you can explore different solutions with the car and it may work out well, or you've got a car that's totally erratic. And considering that car was all over the place this weekend with pace, I'm inclined to think the latter, you know? I mean, practice doesn't mean a damn's worth of difference, but the car went slower in qualifying than it did in practice, while the other cars went faster. And then in the race today, it's like, okay, all of a sudden it's got the race pace back. It's like, what? Like, it's all over the place. It's totally erratic.
It almost has this really minuscule operating window, doesn't it? With things like tires, they don't. It's got to be absolutely bang on the temperature they need to get the tires working. I think there's probably parts of the car that are like that. Everything's got to be absolutely perfect for that car to work. And unfortunately, when you go like a new track like Miami, you're just never gonna. You're never gonna. It's just like you say. It's weird that they're quick. I know practice means nothing. We always say it's Friday, doesn't mean a thing. But quick in practice and then nowhere for George in qualifying. Race suddenly and improve. It's really weird, and I can't imagine that car. The car looks awful to drive in some places.
I've got a younger brother who only ever wanted to eat tenderloins when he was 5 years old, and he is less fussy than what that car is right now. It's just, it's like, yeesh, like, they're at sea with that car, really. They really are at sea. How can you solve a problem if the goalposts appear to be switching? It's like, it's a never-ending problem. But oh well, for the good of the sport, I hope they do get there, because Merc versus Red Bull versus Ferrari. Oh yeah, I'd like that.
Oh god, yeah. Kyle, I mean, sort of on the teams that are up and down at the moment, Kyle says, will McLaren figure it out? I thought they had. But, I mean, to be fair, they did bounce back, but they did say Melbourne, it was track-specific. They felt Imola was similar as well, was probably track-specific, and now we've come to Miami, and they've kind of taken that step back. I mean, Lando Norris today, I mean, obviously the accident, we've said, racing incident, that's fine, these things happen, but also his pit stop was slow. He came out into a DRS train, and that just completely destroyed his race. So with, maybe there could have been something more in this race, but, neither of the McLarens had a great weekend. The track just didn't seem to suit that car, or the car didn't suit the track. And you look at Imola, they were better. Obviously, podium for Lando, great result. They were better in Australia. They were terrible in Bahrain. It's really weird how that's kind of, they're so up and down as well. So maybe they're another team that just need to have a perfect operating window.
It's violently up and down. On one track they're drowning. On the other one, they're they're third or fourth best team. It's like, I thought Mercedes had problems. This is not good for McLaren to have a car. They say, it's track specific. It's like, well, a lot of tracks are quite different, so there's going to be a lot of track specific stuff going on, Maybe some circuits have similar characteristics to others, but, obviously, I need not say this, no two tracks are the same. There are going to be some tracks where you rock up and for some reason the damn package doesn't work. But it is so up and down for McLaren so far. And you look at what works for them, and would you say it's more on sort of, the sort of fast, isn't it the faster corners where they seem to, do better? Because Jeddah, Melbourne had similar sort of characteristics, and that's sort of, but then Imola came along. I don't know where McLaren is, and I don't know if they can necessarily turn it around if we don't even really know where they are this year at the moment, right now at this point of the season.
I mean, Zeta makes.
We need to exhume Bruce McLaren's body and get him to sort of suss this out. It's just like, Bruce, look, I know you've been kind of dead for 50 years, but we need you to solve this, please.
I mean, Zeta says at least McLaren knows their issues and can address them, whereas Mercedes is just pulling random straws and hoping for the best. I mean, that's something maybe, but then it doesn't seem to be a brake issue with McLaren anymore, because they seem to get that sorted. So maybe there is just something they're not understanding with that car. I hope they do, because, I mean, you said Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes. I mean, throw McLaren in there as well. I mean, come on. If at the very least, give us Mercedes and McLaren fighting for third place. At the very least.
Absolutely,
I'd be quite happy with that. I did just see a great question, actually, on Miami, and I probably won't find it now. It was basically, if this is what we got from Miami, what are you expecting from? There it is, from Corpses. If Miami was like this, what do you expect for Vegas? If you think that was cheesy, wait for Vegas next year because you can ramp that up
I will not.
big
I will
time.
not be. I will not be satisfied from the Vegas Grand Prix unless the winner of the race takes a dip into the the Bellagio pond lake or whatever the heck it is. Just like run the length of the circuit, go and take a dip. Like just you gotta do something. Win in Vegas,
I will not be happy unless they are on that podium when they win, performing with Cher. That's Vegas. Max Verstappen and Cher duet of Believe.
Grief. I do not want to hear Max Verstappen on auto tune. Like
Don't
nah.
want to hear Cher on auto tune.
Ugh. Nah, like the Vegas one. I've seen the simulations for it. I think that is warped because for example, they're using both sides of the strip, which is not going to happen. The chicane at the end of the straight was done wrong in that simulation. There are a few things which just were not represented right. I think at the end of the day, it's a speed circuit. For sure it is. But, that's not bad as long as it's executed right. I really won't know how it's going to be until we see a proper look at the track. If it was 1,000,000 miles wide, like it is in the simulations, then yeah, I'll be like, yeah, this will shit the bed. But I don't criticize tracks until I actually see them in action.
Yeah,
just
same.
like with Miami. I think everyone. There was so many people saying the Miami track looks crap, and the simulation, in fact, did it no justice. The one that came out like a year ago, was like, just see what this track's like. The racing wasn't brilliant today. It wasn't bad though. The track's got the track and the event's got a charm to it. I'll give it a chance. I'll give it a chance. I think we all do have to. There are a few things to consider there. I think it'll be fine in the future to come, and that's obviously what we want. If we're gonna have an event for 10 years on the calendar, we at least want it to be good. They didn't do that with Jeddah, but they may have done that with Miami. So yeah, I think with Vegas, let's wait and see until the actual event comes. I can't really make any predictions right now.
I'm just relieved James Corden didn't do the freaking post-race interviews. Out of TV,
are we going to talk about that tub of lard, please? Because just
I don't.
Can we talk about anything? Can we talk about Mazepin instead? No, actually, can we just move on, please? I don't want to talk about any of those.
I'm just happy there was a rumor that it was going to do the post-race interviews, and I was so relieved it didn't because I don't look. All I'm going to say is people keep telling me he's hilarious. I think you're deluded. I just do not get it at all. I did see one more question. We'll do this one today, then we'll stick with the F1 and avoid those conversations. JC says, who do you think has the fourth fastest car right now? McLaren, Alfa, Alpine. Seems like Haas suck at setups or they're dropping back. So who do you reckon? I think if they get it all hooked up in that right window, I think Mercedes probably a third fastest. So I think to say McLaren on their day fourth, or would you say Alfa? Hang on a minute. Bottas is.
I think it honestly can depend. It can depend. Like, I don't want to take too much stock out of Valtteri here, but I'm not high on Joe. People's like, what do you mean you're not high on Joe? Why are you smoking? Nah, I mean, as in like, he's a good driver. Again, he's not in that top 6 F2 drivers from last year I would have promoted. He's a rookie in Formula One as well, so you factor that in. I'm not 1,000,000% sure where that Alpha is at, because even though Joe isn't $1,000,000, he hasn't been terrible either. And when he has been on it, he has sort of put that car near the top 10, in the top 10, thereabouts. It's not a bad car. The McLaren's up and down all the time. It had to be between those two. Haas are slipped back a tad, you could argue. It seems to fluctuate. It seems to be a bit circuit by circuit basis here. So it's hard to nail down who specifically is the fourth best team.
But that's great, like we said earlier, because if we don't know who the fourth best team is, then that means we've got a super close field for the most part. So, I mean, you could even throw Alpine in there, I think, at some weekends. I mean, they were very good in Jeddah until it all sort of started to fall apart. What could Alonso have done in that qualifying lap if he hadn't have had those mechanical issues? So, I'd probably say with everything going their way, McLaren probably. But then, as we've already gone on about, they're up and down, so things aren't going their way, are they? So it's probably a
exactly.
point. It's not Williams, it's not Aston Martin, and I don't think it's Haas. I think I don't know.
They've fallen a bit.
Yeah,
they have fallen a bit. Not by a lot, but it's just But then again, I don't know. They could bounce back. I don't know. Like, we're only 5 races into. It sounds strange. We're only 5 races into the season, and we've had a bit of a variance in the tracks. And even the next 2 tracks, we don't really know where these guys are going to be at. So, who freaking knows? But I mean, hey, if we can't really nail it down, as you said, it's a good thing. If we can say, oh, this is the best car, second best car, third best car, it's like, all right. So you're saying that that this is basically what's going to fill up certain rows on the grid. Like, shouldn't be that way. Obviously, it should be a mixed bag. And again, if we're sitting here sort of just going, oh, well, maybe it could be this team. No, it could be this team or it could be this team. It's like, well, okay, there you go. There's your mixed bag. Great. We got what we need.
It's a good point on the tracks, actually, because I would say Spain's going to be the first normal or more traditional track of the season. I know Imola was, but it's quite tight and quite twisty. And I know Spain is in areas as well, but that feels more of the track that everybody knows up and down the grid. So that feels like the most normal weekend. But then you go straight back into Monaco, which doesn't tell you anything. And then you go into Baku, which doesn't tell you anything. And then it's Canada, which we've not been to for 2 years. So that's not... And then you're probably looking at sort of Silverstone before you're back at another track that you'd maybe be able to read a little bit into it. So it's still 18 races up to 18 races to go this season. So I'm pretty sure the top 2 is going to be Red Bull versus Ferrari versus Red Bull. But in behind that, maybe Mercedes a comfortable third come the end of the season. But God knows.
I think Mercedes are going to be absolutely hard pressed to be in the title fight at all. Yeah. Not for constructors, for the drivers. Now, I predicted this year a few things in that prediction video. There are only 4 of them which I had an absolutely strong feeling about. The other ones were just sort of wild guesses because it's like, well, I don't know. I guess this was going to happen, and then I see like Alfa Romeo's going to get the wooden spoon, and then Bottas gets like what P4, P5 in qualifying. I'm like, okay, yeah, that might have been wrong. But yeah, with I did come out and say George was going to beat Lewis this year, and I remember some just thinking, what the really? You really reckon? It's like, well, no one in the world thought Danny Rick was going to beat Seb in 2014, and again, however it happened. I'm getting the same kind of feeling that this is going to happen again this year with with Lewis and George. And I thought like the first sort of point where George was going to be sort of noticeably there was Imola. And George was on it in Imola, for sure. I do think that, as blasphemous as it's going to sound here, honestly, it's not a wish. It's just what I think's going to happen. George might be that guy for Mercedes this year to challenge for the title, but it would be extremely on edge. It would require Lewis helping. And again, it goes back to that, would it happen for the greater good? It's never happened for Lewis before. So, yeah. It would be. It would. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how the season's going to end out.
Nutella in chat makes a fair point. It says there's still an outside chance that Mercedes unlocks and wins every race in the second half. There is absolutely still an outside chance. If they get this car hooked up, they totally could. But I think it's a very outside chance.
And the other thing as well is like, okay, when is the second half? Are you talking about after Hungary?
And I think you'd need Red Bull and Ferrari to fuck up quite spectacularly as well, wouldn't you?
Really? Not even that. No, I think honestly, like, I think Silverstone, Hungary, that's when they got to get going. If they're not within 3/10 of the fastest car by that time, they can probably forget it. Like, yeah, because from that point on, with the points accumulated, all Max or Charles will need to do is just get the points. Alain Prost the rest of the championship, and then you'll get there. But yeah, I think they will unlock some, maybe not the whole package. I don't think they're going to all of a sudden be a second and a half faster, and all of a sudden you've got an MP4 on your hands. I don't think that at all. But they'll unlock something. There will be some wins there. When that happens, and if George still the best hope for Mercedes, I don't know. I'm not saying I want it to happen. I'm just more like, it's just never happened. If it does, what's going to transpire? Who knows?
Yeah.
Who freaking knows?
I get that. I totally get that. I'll read a couple of comments from chat and then we will wrap it up for... I'll say today. It's tonight. It's Monday. Happy Monday, everyone. I've just hit Monday. I think you're already there, Josh.
Already here.
Nutella's will say it's a long season again. Canada and Japan have been sorely missed. That's from Alexander. Completely agree. I've really missed Canada. Love that racetrack.
Yeah.
Yes, Pixel Float is Monaco after Spain. Mick was in for points until he crashed into his mentor, says Jordan. That was painful, wasn't it? Question marks, of course. We're not getting into it today, but question marks about Mick's future at Haas beyond this season. So we shall see. Some rumours going around of some stuff potentially happening in the paddock, which have gone quiet because somebody came out and said, "Oh, I've been told this." And it's like, yeah, of course you have. Spain and Monaco should play to Ferrari's advantage a lot more. It says KMS Boss. Nutella again says James Corden is a British comedian too, so again, don't blame us Americans, we hate him too. It is very much like, we don't want him, you have him. No, you have him. No, you have him. You took him, you can keep him. And let's have one more. Let's see if there's anything in there that we've not. Alexander just saying that the Duracell AirPod on the Williams is naughty. I do like that one. I really like that one. I'm just trying to something we haven't mentioned, just see if there's something interesting that I can end us on here. A few people hyped for Canada. I freaking love that track. Cannot wait for it to be back. There you go. Oh god, Flaisky. I've butchered that. I'm so sorry. It says Bottas is getting more out of the car like Alonso. Is a fair point as well. So yeah, I think Bottas is doing a good season. I did say somebody say
it could be there. Yeah,
it could be about fourth or
fifth. It is a bit hard. Yeah, it is a bit hard with Joe in there to sort of gauge where exactly he's at. But irrespective of all of that, Valtteri's doing exceptionally this year, and it's great to see. It's great to see. So, there's not much more I can add to that.
No.
It's great to see.
Oh, here's all we need to round off on. James L says, Brundle not knowing people on the track walk was funny. That was the worst track walk I've ever seen.
I didn't actually see that. I got like about 2 or 3 hours of sleep while I could, and I woke up just as the national anthem was going on. So
Venus Williams.
I need to see that. I need to see that grid work because I heard people going on about it. It's like, I need to see this. I do need to see this. Martin Brundle on the grid with celebrities and confused Americans. This is just something I need to absolutely whet my appetite with for sure.
Which was brilliant. What was absolutely brilliant, you had David Beckham there, you had the Williams sisters there, you had Pharrell Williams there. Guess who was trending #1 in the UK? Martin Brundle.
Yeah.
All those celebrities.
Yeah. I love Martin. Martin is, yeah, he is the best at the moment.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
Frozen. Sorry, yeah, there was an influencer there, and Martin walked up to me and says, "Oh, who are you?" He's like, "Oh, I'm something." He says something really cocky, like, "I'm a world-beating, world-renowned influencer." And Martin Brundle was like, "And what's your name?" It was savage. And then he just turned around and said, "And you're so modest with it." I was like, "Oh dear."
Yeah, oh,
Love the man.
jeez. Just the influencers being cocky, eh?
Shocking.
Shocking. At least some of us YouTubers are somewhat, humble about stuff. Oh, hey, Josh, what do you do nowadays? Oh, it's not important, like. Yeah.
Well, I don't know what to say. When people say, what do you do for a living, Sean? Like, I sit on my arse all day and talk about Formula One. You?
I love how like growing up being a YouTuber seemed to be like the absolute dream job, and nowadays when people ask what do you do, it's just like, how the heck is it a dream job? Then all of a sudden you get it, and it's like, how do I explain this to people?
Parents is the worst.
Ironically, my parents were the ones that pushed me to pursue this and quit my day job, and it worked out okay for me. But yeah, someone mentioned before that Catalunya and Monaco will play to Ferrari's strengths even more. Wholeheartedly agree, which is why prediction time: Carlos Sainz to win Monaco.
Oh, can't we have Carlos Sainz winning Spain?
We can't all have what we want in life, but I don't make the rules. I know, sometimes I'm just thinking something's going to happen, and it happens. Like today, for example, I thought that the Miami Grand Prix was going to be won by Checo. I was totally wrong, but, it proves that sometimes, the unexpected can happen. And, Science is going through that sort of phase right now, and he could break that duck with just one win. Just that one win.
I just want good things
should
for him.
Get him back on there.
That's all I want is good things for Sainz.
I think a lot of people do.
Yeah, in front of his home crowd, that might be what he needs.
I mean, at the very least, I want him to get pole position. Wouldn't that be, something? I think at least pole position. At least pole position.
I think it's time to go because the adult dating site bots are here.
Oh my god!
Usually the point where you've been going too long.
Be gone.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up there then, Josh. It's been a good nearly couple of hours still. That was me trying to shorten these down a bit, I mean, it's
well.
I could talk for hours after a race. It's fine.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, man. I mean, I do appreciate it. It's good. It's good yarn after the race, and it's good to actually, have a race in the daylight for me. It's a weird concept.
Yeah, definitely, and Spain and Monaco next. So hopefully we get. I mean,
back
this
to
is
crap
big test,
for me.
isn't it, these rules.
Back to 2 a.m. starts for me. Whoop-de-doo.
You'll love it. It's going to be worth getting up that time for Monaco.
Yeah. I love how there's like F2 and F3 either side of that. So it's just it bleeds into like, by the time the racing program is finished, it's like, oh, look, it's the sun. It's not brilliant being a fan of this side of the world, but hey, I'm still refusing to move over to Europe. So it's my fault and my fault alone, isn't it?
I don't mean this in a like a really harsh way, like I don't want you here. But if you do move to Europe, don't move to the UK. Save yourself.
I've already moved to the UK. I still got my visa. It's expired now, but still.
Stay there. You're safe. But yes, thank you so much, John. It's been an absolute pleasure to finally get to sit and chat to you. Thank you for coming on. It's always nice to sit and chat to fellow F1 fans and get a new voice on the channel as well for a different perspective. So, it's been a pleasure, as I say. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, dude. Thanks very much.
Awesome stuff, and hope to talk to you soon. I'm going to go and do my outro now.
All goods, dude. No worries. I think I'm going to hit the road now. But yeah, again, thanks for having me on.
No worries, mate. And I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, sure, dude. I mean, I think really for like European Grand Prix is, again, it's just shit house. Like just the scheduling. North American Grand Prix, Brazilian Grand Prix are generally fine. You can make an argument for, what was it? I think it was Bahrain. The start time for Bahrain for me was 4 a.m. I was like, get fucked. Because the thing is, before that was F2. So the racing program actually for Bahrain for me was like 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. It's just
I don't fancy that though.
So it's just, again, like when I was over in Melbourne, I just saw people in Europe just like, oh no, I had to get up at 7 a.m. It's like, oh, you can just imagine your hardship. I won't keep you here for any longer than you need be. But so any of those sort of American sort of races, if you wanted me back on again, just give a holler, dude. I'll see if I'm available for that kind of stuff. And yeah, I enjoyed it, dude. It was good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be in touch. So I'll disappear now and end the stream. But thank you so much, Josh. Chat will say bye as well. Say bye, chat. If you don't, I'll be cross. And I'll talk to you again soon, mate.
All right, see you soon. Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye. Thank you very much, Josh. Thank you as well to you guys for tuning in. Always nice to get a new voice on the channel. Just have a good waffle. Always nice to get some new viewpoints. Where are we? I'm lost because it's Monday now, technically, isn't it? So I will be back later this week with some more content, I'm sure about that. And then, of course, we've got a double header with Spain and Monaco. So I still think Spain and Monaco are the big test for these regulations. This is it for me. Spain matters this year for a change, although I'll still probably be bored to death halfway through. Please do drop a like before you disappear. We're way off 500. We've got to 301, so thank you so much for all of that. Thank you for all your super chats as well. I think I've got them all. The thing hasn't updated anymore, so again, thank you very much. And don't forget to subscribe as well so you don't miss out on any more content. And by the next stream, all this 80s Miami stuff, it'll be gone. Don't worry. But yes, you can follow me on social media as well. All the links you need for that are in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word. And until next time, goodbye.